From Lagos, the nation's commercial capital, this is the news at 10. Live from Channels Television. Reporting tonight, Ayotunde Balogun.
Hello and welcome tonight. Senate announces a major shakeup in its standing committees on national security and intelligence, Air Force, as well as national planning. Traditional rulers from northern and southern axes of Kwara State meet in Ajashekpo, resolved to collaborate with the government to end insecurity in the state. President Bola Tinubu nominates immediate past Chief of Defense Staff General Christopher Musa as Minister of Defense. And Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky says there is a chance to end the Russia-Ukraine war.
And on business, Africa challenges the dollar as PAPS opens the door for trade in local currencies.
And on sports news tonight, Coach Eric Chelle unveils 55-man preliminary team ahead of this month's 2025 Africa Cup of Nations.
And from the nation's capital, Onayekon challenges the National Peace Committee, says it has not achieved its core mandate.
Amid renewed security challenges in the country, the Senate has announced a major shakeup of several standing committees, fulfilling its earlier pledge to reconstitute the Committee on National Security and Intelligence. The announcement was made during plenary by the Senate Selection Committee, chaired by the President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio. Our National Assembly correspondent, Gloria Umezoke, reports.
The nation's insecurity challenge is still a major focus in the National Assembly as the upper chamber reconvenes for plenary. Barely 1 week after the Senate dissolved its standing committees on Air Force and National Security and Intelligence, in keeping with its vow to double down on efforts to tackle insecurity, a major shake-up is announced.
The Committee on Selection met, and the new chairman of the Senate Committee on Livestock and Animal Husbandry is the distinguished Senator Shehu Boba, and the committee chairman on National Intelligence and National Security is the distinguished Senator Abdullahi Yahya.
The Senate Committee on Air Force has also been altered, with the Senate Minority Whip, Senator Osita Ungu of Enugu State, taking over as acting chairman. Meanwhile, a mild drama ensued when Senator Danjuma Goje expressed concern over a lengthy interaction during plenary. Following over 30 minutes of a lull in proceedings, Senator Goje interrupted with a point of order.
Point of order. Order 55. Interruption not allowed except to move that the business of the day be called on. What you are doing here is unparliamentary. You should have done this thing outside. There should always be a meeting outside. Everything is at standstill now. We are not doing parliamentary business.
Your point of order is noted.
What?
Your point of order is noted.
Not sustained. No, then you should leave.
Everybody that you see here was invited by the chair. So, for a brief discussion, in continuation of today's sitting, in view of a very urgent assignment at the villa by 1 o'clock. And please approach the chair so you can be part of it.
I don't want to be part of it.
Separately, the Senate passed through second reading the National Emergency Toll Service Establishment Bill 2025. The bill, sponsored by Senator Abdulaziz Musa Yeradua, seeks to create a uniform, accessible and rapid emergency response system through a dedicated 3-digit toll-free number available nationwide. From the National Assembly, Gloria Umezoke, Channels Television News.
Borno State Governor Babagana Zulum believes the Boko Haram conflict is not a religious crisis, but an assault to civilization and humanity. Governor Zulum stated this during a meeting with the leadership of the Christian Association of Nigeria and the Jamaatul Nasir Islam in Maiduguri, the Borno State capital.
I satisfy you with.
Governor Babagana Zulum is convening this meeting with the leadership of the Jamaatul Nasr Islam, Christian Association of Nigeria and other faith-based organizations to foster unity among the religious groups in the state. The meeting becomes expedient because of the worsening security situation in northern Nigeria, especially because of the religious dimension that it is assuming. The governor charges the leaders to speak in one voice against acts that tend to divide the people along religious lines.
I call upon you, revered faith leaders, to preach peace from your members during the Jummah prayers and on your pulpits on the service days. Let your messages be that of unity, tolerance, and our shared values of love, compassion, and justice. I urge all of us to actively speak against any voice, within or without, that seeks to divide us along religious lines. Let us encourage dialogue among our congregations and build bridges at every opportunity.
May God grant you the wisdom.
In their remarks, the leaders of the faith groups revealed that Nigeria is gaining global attention due to the religious undertone associated with the security situation. However, they believe only Nigerians can resolve the problem and pledge to use their position to advance peaceful coexistence.
Our country is on the global map now, and there are a lot of information that are going out. I will enjoin us, the religious leaders, to talk to our people. Nobody can solve our problem from outside. We are the ones who can solve our problems. America, England, nobody can solve our problems. If what His Excellency says here today, if we take it to heart and implement it, we are going to have a peaceful society.
Christians and Muslims have been living peacefully in Borno State. Chibok has the largest number of Christians and some southern parts of the state. We have seen one family with different faiths and yet have lived peacefully. Jesus did not preach segregation, but unity among individuals.
The governor is promising to continue to ensure improved welfare and security of the people, while stating that the state is open to all citizens in the country.
In Kwara, and as the state grapples with its fair share of insecurity, traditional rulers in both Kwara North and South districts have resolved to collaborate with the government at all levels to find a solution to the menace. At a joint meeting held at the palace of the Olukpo of Ajashekbo in Irekwadun local government, the monarchs are calling for stiffer measures against informants.
The issue of insecurity in both Kwara South and northern parts of the state has been a great concern to the traditional institutions in the areas, and they are meeting at the palace of Olukpo of Ajashekbo for deliberations.
As the whole senatorial district,
the kings are lamenting the attacks on the subjects within their domain.
We, the traditional rulers, we must continue to support the effort of the government, and we should be able to tell our people to be able to provide more information for security agencies at timely. Also, our people are engaging into what they call informant to those bandits around. So we should be able to educate our people.
The government is not folding our arms. The government is doing the best, but I'm sorry to say the best is not enough for us. But it has not stopped.
They made some recommendations, including a stiffer penalty for informants of bandits and the deployment of more security personnel to the state. The meeting also discussed the 2027 governorship election in the state. They considered the rotation of the governorship seat and supported the zoning of the seat to Kwara North.
With us in Kwara North, we are on the same page. As I've said, this It's the first time, and this is the time for us to formalize this invitation.
Kwara North is supposed to be given, and we advise all of us, if we put our heads together and see the governor, to notify him that we all, both we in the south and north, have all agreed that we need a candidate, a governor from Kwara North this time around.
The traditional rulers pledged to continue working with the state government to ensure development and security in the state.
Let's head to Plateau State, where the Operation Safe Haven is pushing for the strengthening of community partnerships for a secure harvest and a peaceful Yuletide season. An expanded stakeholders engagement held at the Maxwell Kobe Cantonment in Jos. Government representatives, traditional rulers, community leaders and security agencies attended in a bid to review progress and reinforce collaborative approaches to sustaining peace. Our correspondent Percy Dabang tells us more.
The 3rd Armored Division of the Nigerian Army is hosting the stakeholders engagement to deepen community involvement and proactive security arrangement ahead of the festive period.
Peace mediation.
Themed Strengthening Community Partnership for a Secure Harvest and Harmonious Yuletide Season. The commander of the division explains that the engagement aims to build on some of the successes achieved in the state.
As we enter a period characterized by increased movement and heightened interactions, it is important to reinforce our joint vigilance. Let me emphasize, the 2025 Yuletide season must remain free of any form of security breaches. Our troops are alert, disciplined, and fully prepared to protect every law-abiding citizen.
The Plateau State government is optimistic that the engagement will improve the peace efforts in the state.
Security is a complete distraction to even our personal well-being. So let us try as much as possible to resolve issues within us, talk to each other, and let us have peace. Then we'll be able to channel, very essential resources into making our life better.
Traditional rulers and local government authorities also reaffirmed support for security initiatives and called for continued community-level dialogue.
From what I'm hearing from the majority of the people in this government, we thank God that finally our prayers have been answered by God Almighty.
I want to urge all of us, particularly the critical stakeholders in chairman, when we go back to our respective domains, when we go back to our respective communities, let us cascade these stakeholders engagement. As soon as we finish from here, let us organize these stakeholders engagement at our own level too.
Stakeholders resolved to enhance intelligence sharing, strengthen local security structures, and maintain dialogue to guarantee a safe harvest season and peaceful festive celebrations across the state. Percy Dabang, Channels Television News.
In part 2, after the break, President Bola Tinubu nominates immediate past Chief of Defense Staff General Christopher Musa as Minister of Defense. Please stay with us. Welcome back. If you've joined us, you're watching the News at 10 live on Channels Television Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. Senate announces a major shake-up in its standing committees on national security and intelligence, Air Force, as well as national planning. Traditional rulers from northern and southern axes of Kwara State meet, resolve to collaborate with the government to end insecurity in the state. President Bola Tinubu nominates immediate past Chief of Defense Staff General Christopher Musa as Minister of Defense. And Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky says there is a chance to end the Russia-Ukraine war. President Bola Tinubu has demanded greater efficiency in strategies and results in the ongoing fight against insecurity in some parts of the country. Now, the president made the demand when he met with heads of intelligence agencies and service chiefs at the State House. The meeting today lasted more than an hour behind closed doors in the office of the president at the State House in Abuja. In an interview after the meeting, the Chief of Defense Staff General Olufemi Oluyede revealed that the meeting was quite engaging as the president gave new directives intended to achieve better results in the fight against all forms of insecurity. Meanwhile, President Bola Tinubu has nominated General Christopher Musa to serve as Nigeria's new Minister of Defense. In a letter addressed to the President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, President Tinubu recommended General Musa as the replacement for Mohammed Badru, who resigned on Monday. According to a statement issued by presidential spokesman Bayo Ononuga, General Musa is a highly respected military officer who served as Chief of Defense Staff from 2023 till October this year. He's also a recipient of the Colin Powell Award for Soldiering, which he received back in 2012. Born in Sokoto in 1967, General Musa completed his primary and secondary education in the state before proceeding to the College of Advanced Studies, Zaria. He graduated in 1986 and entered the Nigerian Defense Academy the same year, earning a Bachelor of Science degree in 1991. Commissioned as a second lieutenant in 1991, General Musa has built an illustrious career in the Nigerian Army. In his message to the Senate, President Tinubu expressed strong confidence in General Musa's capacity to lead the Defense Ministry and further enhance Nigeria's security framework. The Department of State Services, the DSS, has arraigned the convener of the Revolution Now protest, Omoyele Sowore, before Justice Mohammed Umar of the Federal High Court, Abuja, on a 5-count charge bordering on alleged cybercrime. He's accused of making derogatory social media posts about President Bola Tinubu, and Mr. Sowore pleaded not guilty to all the charges. During proceedings, his counsel, Marshal Abubakar, challenged the competence of the suit, arguing that the court lacked jurisdiction. The prosecution objected, saying they had only just been served and needed time to respond. And Justice Umar then ruled that the objection was not ready for hearing and directed that the charges be read. Following Mr. Showore's plea, his counsel applied for bail on self-recognition, a request the prosecution opposed, citing flight risk concerns. And Justice Umar cautioned Mr. Sowore against making inflammatory statements and granted him bail on self-recognition. And the matter was then adjourned till January the 19th, 2026 for trial. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, the EFCC, has told the Special Offences Court in Lagos that the former CBN Governor, Godwin Emefele's co-defendant, Henry Omoyele, voluntarily made his statements in the $4.5 billion fraud trial of the duo. While Mr. Emefiele is standing trial on a 19-count charge bordering on gratification and corruption demands, Omoyele faces a 3-count charge relating to unlawful acceptance of gifts, and both defendants pleaded not guilty. In the trial within trial, to determine the voluntariness of the statements made by Omoyele, an EFCC operative, Alvan Guruman, who took the witness box, said no officer of the commission coerced the defendant into making any statements. Guruman, formerly of the Special Operations Unit of the EFCC Lagos Zonal Command, today narrated how Omoyele made the statements at the commission's conference room, insisting he found Omoyele's objection surprising, especially as his statements were taken in the presence of his lawyer. On the cross-examination by the defense counsel, Olalekan Ojo, a senior advocate of Nigeria, and Adeyinka Kotoye, also a senior advocate of Nigeria, Guruman admitted that despite it being part of the EFCC standard practice, no video recording of the statement taken was made, and the signature of the lawyer was also not included in the statement. Justice Oshodi has already adjourned further hearing and the trial within trial to Thursday, January the 15th, and on Friday, January the 16th, 2026. We now head to the nation's capital, and Gloria Mizoke is standing by to give us the latest from our Abuja studios. Over to you, Gloria.
Thank you, Ayo. We begin in the nation's capital, where the Archbishop Emeritus of Abuja, John Cardinal Onayekon, says the National Peace Committee has not achieved its core mission, stating that Nigeria still struggles with credible elections and that the situation has grown worse over time. He made the disclosure at on Nigeria's national identity themed Revisiting the Indigenous Settler Question, organized by the National Peace Committee in partnership with the European Union and the Kuka Center in Abuja. Our correspondent, Benny Ork, reports.
A national dialogue on Nigeria's indigent settler question brought together political, religious, diplomatic, and academic voices in Abuja to tackle one of the country's most enduring sources of division. The event, hosted by the National Peace Committee with support from the European Union and the Kuka Center, focused on how identity, origin, and residency continue to shape citizenship and national unity.
Today, Nigeria has become a cauldron of tension, misery, trauma, and desolation by a majority of our citizens who cannot enjoy the so-called sense of belonging, and they are constrained by circumstances, whether they be religious, whether they be ethnic, or whether they be gender. Unless we focus on the common citizenship, we shall continue to mourn, we shall continue to cry, we shall continue to carry our corpses, we can continue to bury our dead, singing dirges of hopelessness in vernacular.
The European Union stands resolutely with Nigeria in this noble pursuit, advocating for a robust framework of citizenship that transcends indigeneity, ensuring equal access to opportunities, resources, and governance for all who call Nigeria home.
The keynote address focused on redefining Nigerian citizenship to rise above ethnic loyalties, sentiments, and historical suspicions, and embrace a truly inclusive national identity.
The current constitution that we are using cannot cut it and will not deliver. That instrument that we are going to come up with, even though we'll recognize the primacy and sustenance of indigeneity clauses, this must be in a manner that encourages mutual respect and intra-Nigeria migration.
Keeps increasing.
Panelists explore practical pathways for building trust among communities and for dealing with the root causes of exclusion, competition for resources, and a societal disconnect. In his closing remarks, John Cardinal Naikon reiterated that the National Peace Committee has struggled to achieve its mission, saying elections continue to decline in credibility despite years of intervention.
The NPC, National Peace Commission, we are still there, but I don't know. Because the major idea was that we will help to make sure that elections move better. Let me tell you, as a member of the NPC, we did not succeed at all. The elections got worse and worse. And maybe we have reached a stage now where we can face it that we are not running elections. And I don't know whether those in charge are ready to do any proper election in 2027.
The dialogue provided a platform for a deeper examination of Nigeria's national identity and the tensions driving insecurity across communities, with participants urging a new national consensus on what it truly means to be a Nigerian. Benny Ork, Channels Television News.
In aviation news, a fairer share of the aviation market in the African continent, targeting countries like South Africa, Ethiopia and Kenya, is what the federal government is seeking. Now, speaking at the maiden International Air Show in Abuja, the Minister of Aviation and Aerospace Development notes that the federal government is making deliberate investments in the sector and building collaborations to enable the Nigerian aviation sector globally competitive. The International Air Show comes on the heels of the 100th anniversary of aviation in Nigeria.
The Secretary to the Government of the Federation, the Minister of Aviation and Aerospace Development are among the dignitaries attending the maiden edition of the International Air Show in Abuja. The event brings together thought leaders, industry captains from within and the diaspora to showcase Nigeria's rich economic potential in the aviation sector.
As we stand at the intersection of technology and opportunity, Nigeria is poised to lead Africa into a new era of sustainable aviation, advanced manufacturing, and aerospace innovation. Our vision is clear: to build an ecosystem that fosters investment, drives talent development, and ensures safety and sustainability in air transport.
Nigeria recently marked its 100-year anniversary of aviation, and the Minister of Aviation and Aerospace Development says it's time for the country to take its rightful place in the global aviation sector.
We are doing more than 150 frequencies. 150 frequencies to Nigeria by international airlines, not local airlines. International airlines per month to this country. Frequencies. So it is important that we transform Nigeria into Africa's #1 hub. So we have to claim our rightful place in Africa in aviation.
The event is officially declared open by President Bola Tinubu, who is represented by the Secretary to the Government of the Federation. He outlines what the government is doing to position the sector for global competitiveness.
The federal government is investing heavily in modernization. 6 major airports and multiple runways are undergoing upgrades, including a 712 billion refurbishment of Lagos Murtala Mohammed Airport. And this airshow marks a new chapter.
In the next 3 days, the airshow is expected to promote conversations that will bridge the connectivity gap across the region, foster intra-African trade, tourism and investment, and ultimately position Nigeria as the next aviation hub in the African continent.
The Vice President Kashim Shettima is assuring the Nigerian media that the federal government considers them as strategic partners in building a Nigeria of shared purpose. He was speaking at the 2025 conference, an annual general meeting of the International Press Institute, Nigeria, in Abuja. Mr. Shettima, who praised the country's media community for its historical resilience, also affirmed the federal government's unwavering commitment to protecting media practitioners from harassment and intimidation.
The arrival of Vice President Kashim Shettima signals the opening of the 2025 conference and annual general meeting of the International Press Institute, Nigeria. The conference, convened under the theme Countering Media Repression and Safeguarding Democratic Accountability in Nigeria, brought together media executives, past and serving government officials, civil society, and other invited guests. At a time where media repression and attacks on journalists remain rife, this conference provides an avenue for critical reflection and signals a renewed emphasis on protecting press freedom and democratic accountability.
This has been said before, and I will say it again. Journalism is not a crime, and journalists are not criminals. The Constitution protects freedom of expression. This the court have affirmed, but in practice we continue to see arbitrary arrests, intimidation, censorship, and violence.
The Minister of Information and National Orientation, in his remarks, highlighted the significance of an independent press to a functioning democracy.
The balance between national security, combating misinformation, and upholding absolute press freedom is a complex one, navigated by nations across the globe, not only in Nigeria. Our approach, however, is not a retreat into control, but to engage through dialogue and build proactive solutions.
The Vice President Kashim Shettima pledges the commitment of the federal government to providing a safe space for journalists in Nigeria.
But I have developed thick skin to such accusations, but none of the serious media houses took those stories. So the greatest threat to our democracy and our national survival is not the mainstream media. The anarchists in the social media are the greatest threat. We owe a space of practice devoid of harassment, intimidation, or peer for our journalists. That much is non-negotiable. And as a government, we must continue to create an environment where truth can thrive without obstruction. And why the work you do is protect the resident police. Yes, we are going through some grim and somber moments in the contemporary annals of Nigerian history. But where there is a will, there is a way.
A central highlight of the conference is the formal launch of the IPI Nigeria Book of Infamy, a publication documenting cases of media repression in Nigeria.
On August 1st, 2025, Governor Mohamed Bago ordered the closure of Badegi 90.1 FM. Governor Bago's conduct is undemocratic, unconstitutional, and unacceptable. The second Belize Governor, Moen of Akwa Ibom.
The stakeholders here are hoping that the commitments made will translate into concrete reforms and a safer democratic environment for all Nigerians. From Abuja, Victoria Longjohn, Channels Television News.
Still ahead on the news at 10, Africa challenges the dollar as PAPS opens door for trade in local currencies. At some business news, who's Tony Sido? Welcome back. You're still watching the news at 10, coming to you live on Channels Television. To company news, after over 15 years of operating in the payment card scheme, Verve has hit a 100 million cards milestone issued across the continent. The managing director, Mr. Vincent Obunude, announced this at a media launch in Lagos, where he also stated that Verve, Africa's first domestic card scheme, is expanding its partnership portfolio to include Adobe and Glovo. It also consolidates on its existing collaboration with leading brands such as Google, Spotify, Netflix, Temu, AliExpress, Flywire, and more.
Let's make a toast to celebrate the milestone from 0 to 100 million.
100 million plus cards issued. That's no mean feat. It's a monumental achievement, and today, Verve International is proud to formally reveal that the little seed planted over 15 years ago has truly come of age.
And now, we've done it.
Here, the Verve management interfaces with members of the press, recalling those early days, a time when only a few recognized the potential of the brand.
Back then, the environment was quite challenging. Electronic payments were still emerging. Infrastructure gaps were real, and many doubted that a homegrown brand could compete globally.
Now the story is different. The Verve message of empowerment and ease resounds across other African countries, driving financial inclusion and building an ever-expanding partnership portfolio that is reshaping the continent.
In recent years, we have expanded our global reach through collaborations with leading brands including Google, Spotify, Netflix, AliExpress, Temu, Shein, Flywire, and the list is on. Today I'm pleased to announce an addition to our partnership portfolio. We have two additions. We are now in partnership with Adobe. Then the second partner is Glovo. We've gotten into partnership with Glovo.
This milestone is not just about scale, it is about impact. One guiding principle has always been to build technology grounded in meaningful consumer insights with customer satisfaction at the center of everything that we do. Verve continues to grow because Verve understands the heartbeat of consumers.
While grateful to all stakeholders, partners, and users who supported the brand's incredible journey, the management team has a vision for the next chapter.
The success we have made in this climb, we believe, can be replicated across Africa. The value we have brought to the table in Nigeria and some other countries, we want to extend across Africa. So the next big thing for Verve is Africa. We're here to take over Africa.
Verve says it will not stop here. It will continue to push the boundaries of payment solutions, ensuring that every user across every nation can effortlessly enjoy the good life.
That's it from the nation's capital. It's now back to you, Ayo, for more on the news at 10.
Thank you so much, Gloria. Following yesterday's Court of Appeal decision, which ordered the repossession of Nest Oil's head office in Victoria Island, Lagos, police officers this morning denied workers of several companies access to their offices located within the building. Now, the affected workers say they resumed duties following a court order delivered by Honorable Justice Ophelia Jumogobia of the Federal High Court Abuja on November the 24th, which directed that they be granted access to their offices. According to workers, the order was given in a dispute between the owner of the property, Drowcock Estate Limited, the applicant, the Nigeria Police, and the Inspector General of Police, both of whom are the respondents. The order restrained the respondents from interfering with or violating the applicant's right to ownership and possession of the properties. The workers also cited another decision delivered yesterday by Justice Peter Leaf of the Federal High Court Abuja, which restrained the receiver, manager, or any of his agents from obstructing or interfering with Nekonde Energy and its officers in the daily operation of its business. Nest Oil, one of Nigeria's leading energy and infrastructure companies, has been entangled in a debt crisis reportedly exceeding $2 billion, prompting legal battles over ownership and control of its assets.
Yourself, is this more about loan recovery or possession of an asset? So you look at this building, you ask yourself, is this building running away from this place in 2 days? Will this building run away from here in 1 year? That parties that have submitted to the jurisdiction of the court will not allow the court of first instance to deal with the matter. One would have expected that the Court of Appeal would ask parties to return back to the Federal High Court, since the Federal High Court has fixed a date for argument of the motion on notice. But no, the Court of Appeal, without hearing the other side, which is strange to me, decided to grant the other ex parte and say, no, go back and repossess the property. So that's for me is strange, and that's why you see, everybody here today. For me, I think also that the President Court of Appeal should ask the Court of Appeal to hands off this matter, allow the Court of First Instance deal with it.
The owners of the building, Drowcock Limited, have already got a judgment, that says that the IGP and the CP should not let any of their men, air at all. And of course, we came to work this morning as peaceful citizens and workers of different companies. They are tenants. As you can see, this building has 15 floors. Next door does not even use half of the building. Okay, but there was scuffles this morning. They wouldn't let us in. The police threatened, us and them that they're going to tear gas the staff. You're talking about tear gassing us in suit and tie. Are we the bandits? Are we Lagos bandits? Have we come? And the funny part of it is that the lawyers for the receivers, they are going into the building, in and out as if they own the building.
A coalition of Lagos professionals known as Eco United has launched the Progressive Lagos Initiative, a platform designed to enable experts across sectors to contribute to governance and policy development in the state. The convener of the Eco United Progressive Lagos Initiative, Mr. Wale Olagundoye, says the platform is to support Mr. Abdulaziz Adediran as the next governor of Lagos come 2027.
The race for the 2027 governorship and presidential elections are gradually gathering pace as the Eco United unveils the Progressive Lagos Initiative. The Eco United is a coalition of Lagos professionals and innovators driving progressive governance, and they have come out in one voice to show their support for their own courageous and visionary leader, Abdulaziz Adediran, to run as the next governor of Lagos State.
We met with him as a team and informed him of our unanimous decision to adopt him as the beacon that signposts the practical path to actualizing the Lagos we all desire. He wholeheartedly accepted and stated his readiness. President, on two key points. One is for the Progressive Lagos Initiative to give similar resounding support for President Tinubu's re-election come 2027.
Progressive Lagos Initiative applauds former and the current administration in Lagos, but emphasizes that the next governor of the state must be carefully selected to sustain its blueprint of a greater city.
We must commend the successive administration in Lagos. They have done well, but the professionals in Lagos have the opportunity now to contribute their own quota to the development of Lagos.
We have decided to look around and see who best fits this responsibility. And there's no question in my mind
Jandor of Lagos, on all checks, ticks all the boxes.
The convener of the ECO United Progressive Lagos Initiative says professionals must begin to get involved in politics and support a candidate that can build a better future for Lagos.
We've noticed previously that the professionals and elites of the state do not physically get involved in the electoral process, and we're saying that should change. We found Dr. Abdulaziz Olajide as the candidate, Jandor of Lagos, as it's properly called, as that person who embodies values. Why? Because he's young, fresh ideas, energetic, and there's a freshness that you bring into governance that governance needs today that will take Lagos to the next level.
ECO United Progressive Lagos Initiative believes the grassroots have long sustained the state's political structure, but PLI reaffirms its stand in changing the narrative for Lagos professionals to play a more active role and rally support for their own choice of candidate that they believe can run the affairs of Lagos State come 2027.
U.S. lawmakers led by Mario Diaz-Balart, Robert Aderholt, and Riley Moore have held a joint briefing with the House Foreign Affairs Committee on rising attacks against Christians in Nigeria following President Donald Trump's directive to investigate the crisis. Diaz-Balart emphasized that no one should face danger over their faith, describing religious freedom as a key American priority. Moore noted that the targeting of Christians prompted Nigeria's designation as a country of particular concern. The experts Sean Nelson and Ebenezer Obadare detailed cases of persecution, forced conversions, militant attacks, and failures of state protection. Obadare stressed that jihadist insurgency, especially Boko Haram, remains Nigeria's central security threat and must be decisively confronted. He adds that U.S. pressure has spurred recent Nigerian actions, but urged Washington to push for deeper reforms, including reviewing Sharia-based laws. The House Appropriations Committee is preparing a comprehensive report to support the ongoing U.S. efforts to address religious persecution in Nigeria. Mr. Ademola Adeleke has resigned his membership of the People's Democratic Party, the PDP. In a letter addressed to the PDP chairman for Ward 2, Sagba Abogunde of Ede North Local Government Area of Osun State, by his spokesperson Olawale Rashid on Monday, Mr. Adeleke says, quote, "Due to the current crisis within the national leadership of the People's Democratic Party, the PDP, I hereby resign my membership of the party with immediate effect. I thank the People's Democratic Party for the opportunities given to me for my elections as a senator and as governor of Osun State," end quote. Mr. Adeleke represented Osun West Senatorial District from 2017 to 2019. And the spokesperson did not disclose, though, the new political party the governor will be heading to. It's now time for business news with Will Ibon. Will.
Thank you, Ayotunde. Now, African countries are exploring ways to reduce dependence on the U.S. dollar for trade, a move driving the rollout of the Pan-African Payments and Settlement System, PAPS. The initiative, supported by AFTA stakeholders, aims to allow seamless trade across the continent in local currencies, cutting costs and boosting intra-African commerce. At the Stakeholders Forum in Lagos, AFTA Secretary General Wamkele Mene highlights PAPS as a key tool for breaking long-standing barriers in cross-border trade.
What is the dollar got to do with two African countries trading? This is the fundamental question that is at the heart of the economic sovereignty of our continent. It is a political economy imperative. It is a political economy question. However, for us to be able to answer the question, we must have the technology to undertake our own payments, and this is exactly what PAPS is. And we must have the liquidity to settle our own payments.
Enugu State Governor Peter Mbah has presented a 1.6 trillion naira 2026 budget to the State House of Assembly, calling it a budget of renewed momentum to fast-track ongoing reforms and infrastructure gains. He says capital spending taxes takes 80% of the planned 1.296 trillion naira, while recurrent expenditure stands at 321.3 billion naira, highlighting a focus on long-term development.
Allow me to present the changes this budget will support. The economic sector, we are allocating 868 billion, representing 61.1% of the capital expenditure to the economic sector. It's very strategic and deliberate. When we invest in agriculture, industry, and trade, we create jobs, reduce poverty, and generate revenue that strengthens the entire economy. The performance of this sector remains central to our vision of achieving a 7-fold GDP growth in Enugu State. In 2026, we will construct additional 5 new transport terminals located at Emene, Udi, Owo, Four Corners, and Obolo-Afo. We also made provision for the procurement of 2,000 sedans for our city taxis. Enugu Air continues to serve as an economic enabler and a strategic platform for our emergence as a regional hub. Next year, we will acquire an additional 14 aircraft.
Now let's get a check-in on the domestic equities market, which made a rebound in today's trading session amid buying interest in Dangote Cement. Inichoneko has the details.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the stock market report. Well, a complete reversal from what we had, the sentiment at intraday. At the close of trade today, 1.287 trillion naira has been added to the market cap. So remember about this time yesterday, we're talking about 91 trillion naira. Well, it's gone up to 92.376 trillion naira. The old share is also looking good, over 1% in the green, 1.20%. And also, it's gone up to almost 145. Remember, we closed at 143 this time yesterday. Dangote Cement. We know that the latest news from Dangote has been from the refinery, where there's the assurance of PMS all through December and January. But there's this positive sentiment around Dangote Cement. Today it's gained 53 naira 40 kobo to close at 588 naira. NCR is also positive, as well as International Breweries. On the flip side, we see Kecha Hotel, Legend Insurance, and Living Trust. They've witnessed a lot of profit taking, but it's so nice to see and to hear the bull again.
Let's get a sense of other major equities, how they performed today. Here's a snapshot of the closing numbers. And that's business news. And Will Ibang is back to you, Ayotunde.
Many thanks, Will. Sami Pusi is up next with Around the World in 5 from our London studio.
Good evening and welcome to the channel's studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky has said now more than ever there is a chance to end this war. Speaking on his first official visit to Ireland, Mr. Zelensky said some things still needed to be worked out in the draft peace plan, but the US is taking serious steps to end the war. Meanwhile, Russian President Vladimir Putin has met with US Special Envoy Steve Witkoff, here seen entering the Kremlin after the White House said it was very optimistic about reaching a ceasefire deal. A top US Navy admiral ordered a second round of strikes on an alleged Venezuelan drug boat. That's according to the White House. The so-called double tap strike on the 2nd of September had drawn bipartisan scrutiny among US lawmakers. Media reports that Pete Hegseth had given the directive to kill all those on board the vessel during the strikes have renewed concerns about the legality of US military strikes. More than 80 people have been killed in a number of similar attacks in the Caribbean Sea since early September. Each announcement from US officials is usually accompanied by grainy video, but no evidence of the alleged drug trafficking and few details on who or what was on board each vessel.
With respect to the strikes in question on September 2nd, Secretary Hegseth authorized Admiral Bradley to conduct these kinetic strikes. Admiral Bradley worked well within his authority and the law, directing the engagement to ensure the boat was destroyed and the threat to the United States of America was eliminated.
Hong Kong's leader, John Lee, has ordered the creation of an independent committee to investigate the cause of a devastating fire that killed at least 151 people. Last Wednesday, 7 of 8 tower blocks at the Wang Fuk Court housing complex, which had been undergoing extensive renovations, went up in flames. Investigators have since found that protective netting used around the buildings failed to meet flame retardant standards. At least 13 people have been arrested for suspected manslaughter, including the directors of a construction company. The fire is the deadliest the city has seen in more than 70 years, and the death toll could rise further as officials continue to recover bodies. Bulgaria's government has said it will withdraw its controversial 2026 budget plan after massive rallies were held against it in the capital Sofia and in cities across the country. Tens of thousands of people joined protests to oppose the draft budget, which they said attempted to hide widespread government corruption. Clashes with police broke out, and some masked protesters attacked the offices of the ruling Conservative Party and also the DPS party. The government said on Tuesday it would abandon the plan, which would also have raised taxes. It comes after similar protests broke out last week, when the initial plan was submitted to Parliament. The death toll in the floods, which have struck Indonesia, has now climbed to 631, while rescue workers still battle to reach affected areas. The floods, which were caused by a rare cyclone that had formed over the Malacca Strait, have hit 3 provinces and impacted some 1.5 million people, according to the government's disaster agency. Nearly 500 people remain missing, while thousands more have been injured. Pope Leo XIV has led a silent prayer at the site of the Beirut port explosion and demanded justice for its victims as he wrapped up his 3-day visit to Lebanon. He also met some relatives of the 218 people who were killed by the massive blast on the 4th of August 2020, which devastated a large part of the capital. Later, the Pope said he was deeply moved by his visit to the port and shared the thirst for truth and justice of so many families of an entire country. No one has yet been held accountable for the disaster, which happened when a fire triggered the detonation of 2,750 tons of ammonium nitrate that had been stored unsafely at a port warehouse for almost 6 years. And an Italian mayor has apologised to the family of the opera star Luciano Pavarotti after the town of Pesaro encased a statue honouring the late singer with a Christmas ice rink. The singer's widow told local media that she was angry and upset at what she called the decision to ridicule her late husband. The temporary ice rink was constructed in the centre of the town's piazza, leaving Pavarotti's statue knee-deep in ice and surrounded by perspex walls. In response, the mayor said that he didn't mean to offend anyone and admitted that his council had made a mistake. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel's studios in Lagos.
Thank you, Simon. Welcome to Sports News Abridged. Nice public prosecutors have confirmed the opening of an investigation into aggravated assault over a confrontation between Nice Football Club and their own supporters after a 3-1 defeat at Laurent in Ligue 1. Nigeria Super Eagles player Terem Murphy and Côte d'Ivoire's Jeremy Boga lodged complaints with the police and they've been on the receiving end of much of the fans' ire. And finally, head coach Eric Chelle has picked captain William Ekong, ace forward Victor Osimhen, midfielder Wilfred Ndidi, and goalkeeper Stanley Nwabali in a provisional list of 55 players for the 35th Africa Cup of Nations finals in Morocco. A final list of 28 players will be drawn from the provisional list in a matter of days. That's where we leave it in sports news. I'll be back with the conclusion of the news at 10.
And the main news again. The Senate has announced a major shake-up in its standing committees on national security and intelligence, Air Force, as well as national planning. That's the news at 10 tonight. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Ayo Tunde Balogun. You have a good night.